Welcome, folks, to a special commitment episode of the Michigan Recruiting Insider. Commit reaction as the Wolverines have added a new member to their 2026 class. And so it is time to react, to reflect, and to give you some scoops, some lowdown, and certainly give you what we believe is some insight as far as the excitement that we feel they're feeling on the inside about this latest pickup in their 2026 recruiting class, because this is one of those where the rankings say one thing and we think Michigan feels another. Joining me to break down this latest news for the Michigan recruiting class here on the Michigan Recruiting Insider is Steve Lorenz. Steve, how are you today?
Good. This might be a boop episode, just letting everybody know ahead of time here. She's pretty relentless right now. So, but no, great. And yeah, this is a kind of an exciting commitment to talk about because, yeah, we've discussed guys before that we always say, don't totally buy into the actual ranking. This might be the biggest example of that, just the difference in the ranking versus what we think how Michigan feels about this guy. Maybe one of the bigger gaps I think I can ever remember since doing this, for sure.
Yeah, the young man's name is Bear McWhorter, offensive lineman, who we're going to break down in great detail coming up. But before we get into that, I want to tell you, one of our great sponsors here on the Michigan Recruiting Insider, our friends at Wolverine. And Wolverine, of course, you see the apparel that they provide. It is about and represents blue collar work ethic. And you see with Michigan, the athletes grinding on the field. When you see people who wear it, often it is the blue collar work ethic that they're exhibiting on the job. The two are synonymous. And so when you see me wearing this, as producer Ben puts it up on the screen, this great University of Michigan Bucksaw hooded flannel shirt jack, not only is it stylish, but the warmth, the comfort, the style, but the function represents all of those things. Blue collar, but represents it the same thing. The brand that is the University of Michigan, the brand that is Wolverine. And whenever you buy a piece of this blue collar line from Wolverine, you're also supporting Michigan NIL. And you have seen these student athletes that wear the Wolverine brand benefit from as well, from Max Bredesen to Colston Loveland, who you saw at the Michigan Combine, Donovan Edwards, Will Johnson, all those guys who have represented the Wolverine brand. So many more into the future as the Michigan and Wolverine connection continues. You can continue to support that by continuing to support Wolverine, one of our proud sponsors here on the Michigan Recruiting Insider. And with that, let's go ahead and talk about this, what we think is a huge commitment for the University of Michigan, considering the amount of effort, the amount of intensity that they have put into this recruitment, and the amount of excitement. I led off with it, Steve, talking about it. But a guy that in the rankings, if I have to mention what our ranking is on 24/7, a 3-star guy on 247, number 86 interior offensive lineman in the country, out of White, Georgia, Cass High School, 6'4", 293 pounds, Bear McWhorter. But it bears repeating, Steve, the analysts and the coaches don't always agree. And Michigan's coaching staff clearly believes this is, and not just Michigan's coaching staff, mind you, but clearly believes this is one of the top interior offensive linemen in all of the country.
If Michigan was taking 5 players up front this cycle. I don't know if it'll be 5, maybe it'll be 4, but let's just say they were going to take 5. McWhorter would be one of the guys they would want to pencil in into what you would call like a dream class, right? Or like if you could pick the 5 guys, that's how high I believe they are on him. Alabama, the same. Michigan has what? An offensive line coach who won a national championship as an offensive line coach. You have Grant Newsome, the offensive line coach now, and you have 2 former NFL offensive line coaches as analysts who all, to our knowledge, believe that he's a top 5 offensive lineman in this class. So like we said at the beginning, this is a much bigger gap between ranking, and normally we at least have an idea what we think how Michigan feels about a guy. This is definitely one of the bigger, if not the biggest gaps I can remember. They think they're getting not just a good player, but plays with that just intensity, that fire, that grit that Michigan really likes to bring up front. So yeah, Bama, I mean, Clemson, South Carolina, I mean, pretty much had all of the SEC. And there wasn't one, sometimes you ask around other writers in the network and stuff. There wasn't one guy that I reach out to in our network that didn't think he wasn't a take, that, thought he wasn't a take for their respective program. So yeah, we'll see what happens with his ranking going forward. But from Michigan's standpoint, I know they don't care one bit, I guess, about the ranking. I think they probably kind of feel like it's not that accurate, but again, is what it is.
Hey, you got to think about Michigan's offensive line resume. You got Sharon Moore, an offensive line coach who coached a 2-time Joe Moore award-winning line. Of course, you have now flanking Grant Newsome, Juan Castillo, who is a decorated offensive line coach, who is, Juan Castillo is one of the best in the game. Long time offensive line guru, I think is fair to say, in the league and in college. Brett Ingles, who coached the Super Bowl line. I mean, you got offensive line chops, abounding offensive line chops. And if these guys are saying this is the dude, you know what it reminds me of? Just a brief aside, I'll never forget when Michigan offered Aiden Hutchinson. And I just remember vividly, and Cooper Patagna will remember this. I think Cooper, at the time, he was on Michigan's recruiting staff, and he thought it was a bit early to be going on Aiden Hutchinson. And Greg Madison was like, this is going to be a guy. We're offering him right now. He is going to be an absolute star. Coach his dad. I know this is going to be a guy. We're going to be all over him. I'm offering him right now. He is a big timer, period. And they offered him, and of course, the rest is history. Sometimes, and I'm sure Cooper would say now, sometimes you go with the experience, right? That doesn't mean it always is the case, but I think this is one of those times where it's the case. And you go back to Bear McWhorter's history, though. This is a guy that's been in the recruiting news for quite some time, Steve.
Yeah, it was kind of funny when Michigan really picked up their recruitment of him, because to that point, for me, as somebody who obviously have to keep sort of an eye out nationally, thought of him as the billboard kid. He ended up committing to Arkansas a long time ago, but basically was pleading his case via a billboard just outside of Fayetteville in Arkansas, telling Sam Pittman that he wanted to be a Hog. And so he committed there, was committed until, you said, Sam, like, not that, it wasn't even, I thought he had decommitted a long time ago, but I guess it wasn't super, super long ago that he reopened his recruitment or whatever. But yeah, point being, this is a kid who has been talking to college coaches for a really long time. And that's what, like, I get the sense, and again, you'll never say never in today's recruiting atmosphere, but I get the sense Michigan thinks, that this is a guy who's going to stick throughout, if anything, is just fatigue from the recruiting process. I mean, when you're going through this stuff for years, it's great to get all the attention, all the phone calls and stuff, but it can kind of wear on you after a while. So I think Michigan feels pretty good about hanging on to him. But yeah, this is a kid who's been around the recruiting process since 8th grade, probably. Like, he's just been around the block with just how the process works and talking to coaches and stuff for a long time. So really another reason why I think it's a nice win for Michigan, right? I mean, they had to have shown something, a little bit different maybe than some other programs. I know he mentioned a few times his parents were huge fans of the Michigan coaching staff. That was one thing he pointed out to, I believe it was Anna Adams, one of our regional analysts, a couple of weeks ago, said that the family really felt comfortable sending him up to Ann Arbor. When you consider, I think all of his other finalists were somewhere within not too far from Atlanta. So yeah, but definitely, yeah, a kid who's definitely seen what coaches can pitch, what they say, do they back it up? And so credit to Grant Newsome, Michigan staff for getting it done.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is, man, all of the Southern school, and you first of all, to be clear, let's check the resume. Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, all of the big time schools in the South, literally all of them had offered them scholarships. Oklahoma, Miami, LSU. I know I mentioned Georgia, Florida, Clemson, like you said. All of them had offered them. You don't have all those offers and you're like a low tier guy. That's just, those two things don't happen. So that's one thing. The other thing is, Steve, there was a lot of Bama smoke like 24 hours before he committed. What was behind all of that?
Well, I guess the best way to put it is it was inaccurate. I guess there's really no other way to kind of put it. Matter of fact, I'll have to go on the board and slightly amend the report I put out after he committed. I think Michigan, looking back, felt good here for the last month or so. When he released his top 5, even then we thought it was going to be Michigan or Alabama. Even within that top 5, the other schools all liked him, like we mentioned before, but this felt like a 2-team battle for a while. I think Michigan's sense was that they kind of had control of this one for quite a bit. McWhorter, not a big meet, doesn't talk to the media a lot, was not feeding anybody any info that, as a matter of fact, some were manufacturing info, it sounds like, about this recruitment. But from Michigan's standpoint, like I said, I think they felt good for the last month or so in this one, and we're able to effectively kind of keep it quiet. And if you're Michigan staff, a late prediction elsewhere is a great, when you're going to get a kid, is kind of a nice thing, because it can kind of take the pressure off of feeling like if he's telling Michigan he wants to come and then it gets out that it's Michigan, then you could always wonder, well, is Michigan telling people like that he's coming here and stuff, when there's supposed to be like that trust and stuff between parties, because he does kind of seem to keep a guarded thing about his recruitment. So it kind of, I think, all played out exactly how Michigan sort of wanted it to. But yeah, I mean, it was Michigan or Bama for a while, but like I said, I'm gonna have to amend that report a bit, because it sounds more like Michigan kind of felt like they were in control for last 3 weeks or a month or so, when things really started to kind of heat up and pick up down the stretch.
Yeah, so you got to feel good. I mean, Bama, they were all over him. He's named Bear, and they still weren't able to get him, right? He took out he was committed to Arkansas before. He already decommitted from Arkansas. You just feel like you've been through the ringer already with the guy if you're Michigan, which is probably why they're feeling pretty good about where they are when it comes to the ability to hold on to him. As far as this game, 6'4", 305 pounds. What jumps out to me is his athleticism. Like when you watch him, his speed and agility as an interior offensive lineman. This is one of those guys that, as a space player, when you pull him, as one of those guys when you're running counters and pin and pulls, like this is going to be, he's going to eat. Like, when you see him coming around the corner, he is going to make you pay. That doesn't mean he's not a dude at the point of attack. He is a quick and powerful guy at the point too. But I think his speed, his agility, his athleticism, to me, is part of what really makes him a special player, in my opinion. I'm taking nothing away from his power too, but if I'm looking for a separator, it is his speed, agility, and he's a technician. Those are the things that jump out to me when I watch his tape.
Yeah, 100%. I think another thing too, I think there's quite a significant jump from the sophomore to the junior stuff too, which also means the guy's is improving and working hard on improving. But I totally agree, Sam. That's the first thing I thought too, was about, this looks like a kid that they're going to love to run pulls. We'll get him running around and stuff, get him out to that second level or get him out to the outside, right? I mean, that's a lot of times that's the type of stuff that can be really hard to teach. It's one thing to just have a big, strong dude who can just beat the guy across the line. But it feels like he looks immediately like a guy that they could use in a variety of ways up front. So yeah, no, like I said, biggest thing for me was I thought there was a nice jump into the junior film. I think that backs up Michigan's pursuit here. I think they've always liked him, but I think then they really, really started to amp it up after the junior film, probably like late fall or so. It feels like this recruitment really picked up on Michigan's end. So yeah, but definitely like a very diverse interior guy. I think he's a guy that has the mentality too to become a great finisher, right? And that's something that, like, it's the mental side that can be the unteachable type stuff. They're going to get him stronger, they'll get him bigger, they'll get him where they want him. But he's got some of that unteachable stuff already. And I know, again, the one other thing too is that Michigan just really loved his personality, loved his mentality up front. I know they just really took a liking to him. Obviously, you like the game first, but then you want to get to know the kid, and they really loved him. It's a football family. It's a family that eats, breathes, and sleeps football. And yeah, so a lot of pluses there for sure.
Yeah, well, Bryce Marriage talked to his head coach at White, Steve Gates, and he said, "Listen, I coached the kid, and he said to me, his best attribute." He said, "You talk about all the physical traits." He said, "To me, his best attribute is his work ethic." He said, "This kid, when you talk about a guy who does not quit, whether it's in training or on the field, you just will not outwork this guy. He just does not stop." And so that kind of speaks to, motor and intensity. That's something else. I know they say you can teach that, but I kind of think you kind of either have it or you don't. It's kind of like a mindset mentality kind of thing. That a lot of guys they just got it, man. And Bear McWhorter has it, for sure. So Michigan checking a lot of boxes with this latest pickup. They are clearly elated to add him to the fold, and another guy that's going to help anchor that offensive line moving forward into the future. A guy who I think is going to be able to come in and be a guy that once he puts on maybe 10 or so pounds, 10, 15 pounds, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a guy by the second year in a program, depending on what the depth chart looks like. But I could see him being a guy by his second year in a program, be in the two deep, if not in the lineup, Steve.
I was going to say, at least knocking on the door, right? And that's with what Michigan's recruited the last couple cycles up front. That would be an amazing scenario for them, right? I mean, because they've recruited really well up front, and they're poised to finish this 26 class. We talked about them finishing, they get Babalola, they get Ty Haywood late in the 2025 class. You talk about Andrew Sprague, Blake Frazier, that whole group in 24. I think they can add a few more guys in 26 that can make this class look as good. If not, maybe, I want to say better, because it's hard to finish with 2 top 50 tackles. That's not something you're going to do every cycle. But there's a select group of guys I feel like they want to finish with up front in 26.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our conversation about Michigan's latest commitment to the 2026 class, Bear McWhorter. Before we go, though, I want to tell you about another of our great sponsors, Passes. Michigan's one of Michigan's official NIL partners, and one that for student athletes been a true innovative partner, allowing them to take their name and image and likeness possibilities to another level, because with their online platform, they allow student athletes to monetize and advertise their name, image, and likeness in ways that they weren't ever able to before. So this platform and through this partnership, student athletes are able to take their content, they're able to take their merch and put it on the Passes platform, and also do so by using using the Block M as well through that Passes relationship with the University of Michigan. Truly, truly, truly innovative. If you go to passes.com, you can see what all the fuss is about. You can see the many student athletes who've already signed up and put their merch on there, put their content on there on a continuous basis. So be checking it regularly. Be checking out the different content pieces they put on there, the merch they put on there from there. You see shirts that they put on there, different different items that they put on there from maybe competitions that they've been in. So all of the different items, all of the different messages, all of the different engagement opportunities that they have, they place it on their Passes portals, and you can check that on a regular basis through that and through different membership opportunities that they have on passes.com. So be sure to check it out. This is your way to support student athletes in their NIL endeavors on a continuous basis through passes.com. With that, folks, that is going to be all for this edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider.